in this program and not necessarily those of Love 101.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, are we really experiencing signs of the times now? And in the second watch, Lost in the System, examining the plight of mentally ill or the mentally ill in the justice system. For our social media question, we ask, what signs of the times convince you it really is the end times? We're asking you to share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's our quote.
All right, good morning, good morning. Today's I quote says, better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. A police and military saying.
Hey, good morning, Juka.
Good morning.
What do you get from that saying?
Better to be judged by, I believe, a jury than carried by 6 pallbearers.
Okay.
I'm taking it literal.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get A for that.
Thank you.
Good. The first watch will be back after this break.
We've been questioning the institution of marriage for a very long time. Recently, these questions have quadrupled. As first described in Genesis and later affirmed by Jesus, marriage is a God-ordained covenant relationship between a man and a woman. That's what the Bible says. But how has this covenant changed? Listen this Tuesday, October 29 at 10 a.m. for The Rock. As guests, Bishop Karen Grandison and Daniel Dodd will join our host to talk about marriage. How has marriage changed? And has it for the better? How much of marriage is for the sake of God's instruction and man's laws? That's The Rock this Tuesday, October 29 at 10 a.m. It will be on the family station, Love 101. Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When you're to the end of myself, carry me.
Get ready for another inspiring show with Testimony Tuesday inside Live at 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. October 29. Packed with inspirational stories and Alan-favorite music. 1:45, we bring you the more interesting exercise, the Roller Edition. Stick around for prayer blast at 2 o'clock as we bring in the prayer bells of heaven. To begin inside the evidence, we bring you the recap of all those who have inspired and shared their testimonies to encourage so many of you daily. Then at 3 p.m., we will be have a purpose for another life-transforming journey. Stick and stay with us. All of them will come alive from 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. October 29 with me, Sarah, and the chirpy one on the family station. Love 101.
Don't miss the next episode of The Mailbox as we look at Men and ADHD Part 2. October is ADHD Awareness Month, and males are 2 to 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than females. Other than typical ADHD symptoms, men can struggle with various issues that due to ADHD go unnoticed. These include workaholism, perfectionism, suicidal thoughts, and dependence on cannabis and or food. You're invited to continue the conversation with Mr. Adebrow, who was diagnosed with ADHD as a child and is now an associate counseling psychologist, on Wednesday, October 30 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station Love 101. The Mailbox is brought to you by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Fosrich Company Limited. That's Wednesday, October 30 at 5:30 p.m. Only on the family station Love 101. The Mailbox. Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, we've been told for thousands of years that it's the signs of the times. God soon come. How can we know for sure? This is it now. And how much worse can it get? To discuss such matters, we have joining us Bishop Robert Ellis, pastor of the Pentecostal Sanctuary in Kingston and the Pentecostal Cathedral in Naples, Clarendon, as well as Bishop Apostle Grace Adigold, founder of a Rise Shine Apostolic and Deliverance Center. Good morning to you both.
Bless you.
Great morning. Bishop Adigold, there?
Yes, God bless you. Thank you.
Great. Great, good to have you both with us. Now, how would you define the signs of the times, that phrase, and why are they important for us today? Beginning with you, Bishop Adigold.
Wow. The signs of the times, they are very, very important. If there is nothing else in this world that we should look up to and get ourselves ready to, it should be the signs of the time. Because what have we come to do in this world? What are we going to do after we leave this world? So we don't want to end up with the devil. We want to be with the Lord. So everybody from you are saved. You are told that there is hell. You are told that there is heaven. And then you want to go to heaven because the devil has held you for so many years. And now that you are saved, you want to go to heaven. But then they say Jesus is coming back to take us home. When is he coming? And then he has given signs. The book of Matthew chapter 24 has it all. So many things are there. And also 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7, 8 to 9 is also there. And so many passages of the scriptures. This world is not a place that you want to hold on to. You want to stay there forever. You want to go. So as a result, you're going to be looking for what are the signs? So you're going to be, oh my God, is that the sign of, is that happening? Oh my God, but the Bible says so. Even the book of 2 Timothy chapter 3 also talks about the perilous time. So, and these things are happening, and then you are looking forward to, okay, when is Christ coming? So you have to be in the hope of expectation of when he's coming. When he's coming to take me home. When is he coming to take us home? If you even have a problem, you are sick or something's happening, you are going through crisis, it's like you want Jesus to come immediately. You want him to come and take you home. And so all these things that are happening all around us, as prescribed by the Bible, as written down here, gives us the anticipation. We become so anxious. When is it coming? Then you say, oh, is Jesus coming? If you even sleep and somebody, maybe two of you sleep in a room, and then you go to sleep with that anticipation in your mind, and by the time you wake up in the middle of the night, you don't see this person. The first thing that comes has, I mean, Jesus came already. There's something called rapture, even though some people will explain it away that the Bible did not say so. But there is rapture. Jesus will come back to catch his people, to take his people home. And so, if anything should happen, many people have hurriedly run out of their room or quickly ask somebody, is so and so here? Is that person here? If they said yes, he's here. Yeah. Oh, okay. Rapture hasn't taken place. So I'm happy. That kind of a thing. So
Yes.
those are the things that create the atmosphere.
Interesting. Yeah. Bishop Ellis, your take on it? How do you define the signs of the times? Why are they important for us today?
Well, in Matthew chapter 24, the disciples asked Jesus two very important questions. What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? The fact that the world will end one day is not in debate, because even among the scientific community, there is wide consensus that the earth will end. Whether they have theories of big rip, big freeze, or whatever, but they all agree the world will end. The big question is how and when will the world end? We who are people of the Bible, we do understand that the world will not end by some cosmic event. It will not end by man's action, but the world will end by him who began the world. He is the beginning and the end, Jesus Christ the Lord. And so within the Bible, this question was asked, what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus outlined the conditions that we, the people of God, can use as indicators that would point us to the time of his return. And so when we look around, we see that earth's condition now concur with the prophetic word that confirms to us that we are in the end of time and the coming of the Lord is at hand.
So the importance of the signs are to warn us of the coming end of the world. That's the way you're seeing it, Apostle. Are they good?
Yes. It's to warn us, to get us ready, so that backsliders can come back, so that those who have not given their lives should think again about where their end is going to be. It's like somebody saying, flee from the wrath to come, because something is going to happen. Because this world will not just continue just like this forever. There has to be an end. And even if it doesn't end now, you're going to die. And yeah.
Right. And Bishop Ellis, these signs in terms of warning, are they comprehensive? Are they exhaustive?
I do think the scripture has given us a comprehensive picture of what the end time will look like, and has given us enough that we won't or should not be caught unaware. So they are comprehensive. They speak to the environmental condition. They speak to the spiritual condition. They speak to the geopolitical condition that will exist in the last days. And they speak to the kind of a world we would see in the last days.
Okay.
And that's comprehensive.
Right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're up on a break. We'll be right back.
Save on your PSA.
Life is precious. Whether you're driving through the hills in the country, the town, or on the highway, remember, slow down and take it easy. Your family and friends are depending on you to get home safe. Speeding may save you minutes, but careful driving saves lives. Since the beginning of this year, 288 people have been killed in 247 crashes, so drive safe.
Brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
The time is now. Beat the clock with the Yadon Road Heroes Day Flash Sale. Sign up for Yadon Road for only $5,300 plus GCT and get a Visa cash card loaded with $15,000 that you can use at the supermarket, gas station, and more. Plus, you can get a Samsung A05 for only $1,999 plus GCT when you sign up. This offer ends soon. Sign up for Yadon Road today. Visit discoverflow.co or a Flow store for more details. Conditions apply. Win with love.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And this is the first watch. We're asking the question, are we really experiencing the signs of the times now? In so doing, we have online Bishop Grace Adigold, founder of the Arise and Shine Apostolic Deliverance Center, and Bishop Robert Ellis, pastor of the Pentecostal Sanctuary in Kingston and the Cathedral in Maypen. Welcome to you both again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Now, Bishop Adigold, I appreciate how both of you responded in terms of avoiding going to the specific signs. We're not going to look on those. What are the major signs of the times which you can identify today? Beginning with you, Bishop Adigold.
Wow, it's a lot of them mentioned in the book of Matthew, chapter 24. It talks about many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. I am telling you, we have all kinds of preachers, prophets, right now that have taken people, maybe hostage, kind of under them. And these people, they have brainwashed them, they mesmerize them to believe that these are the people, it's like they are God, they worship them. Some of them will even command them to eat grass, and they will eat grass. Some of them we command them to drink petrol, they will drink petrol. So anything, they will tell them come to church naked, they will come naked. Some of them in church, they will tell them take off your underpants, and because I want to do deliverance, or anything they tell them to do, they're gonna do it. Some will cause their members to bring them from the rooftop. They will say they are ascending from, or I mean, they are descending from the sky or something like that. And people will just go after these things because they have already messed up their mind. So they will say they are Christ, and people will believe them. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. My God, you know what is happening? Putins and all kinds of people in Africa, in different nations of the world. It is happening. But the Bible says, see that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famine, pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. Verse 8 says, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Beginning of sorrows. Then shall they will deliver you up to be afflicted. Persecution. Jamaica has not experienced persecution. They are still enjoying the atmosphere of, we are a Christian nation. And so I'm telling you, when persecution rises, and we have to be very, very careful, and I am not even careful of what I want to say, of Muslims. If we embrace them, if we allow them to prosper in this nation, I thank God that my late husband was used by God. It was prophetic. It was before it happened that he will cut the brand of Islam that was coming to Jamaica, and that happened in 2008. If not, because he came and brought a challenge by airborne religious hard talk and said that there is nothing about Christianity and so on. I'm just paraphrasing. And he said anyone who can challenge him should come out. And then somebody told, we were told, because we were so busy, we didn't hear that. My husband called airborne and said, I will challenge him. Because back home, my husband actually he went to high school by federal high school back in Nigeria through scholarship. Into an Islamic school, Islamic college. That was where his high school was. So he learned all of those, and God said he has been trained for such a time as that. That was what cut down Islam
Okay.
from propagating. And
Hear it loud and clear, Bishop. Yeah.
sorry.
Hear it loud and clear. Right. So you have mentioned deception, wars, and rumors of war, persecution. Bishop Ellis, any more you'd like to highlight?
Well, I would like to highlight the rise and the prominence of Israel as a nation. A lot of the end time prophecies has to do with Israel, and we see in Ezekiel 37, Ezekiel prophesying of the regathering of Israel, and not only the regathering of Israel, but the restoration of Israel political and economic might. And thirdly, the spiritual revival of Israel. These are shown in the gathering of the bones getting sinews and flesh, and finally getting life. And Israel is a modern day miracle. Since Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem in BC 606, Israel has never had political sovereignty and self-government, except for brief periods of the Maccabean era. And to see before our very eyes Ezekiel 38 coming to life, and to see Israel now becoming a world superpower out of the ashes of the Holocaust, just as the Bible shows that it would be in the end of time, and where we will see them having a spiritual revival. It is an unfolding of the profound credibility and accuracy of Scripture. So that for me looms large in the whole geopolitical landscape.
Right. So deception, wars, rumors of war, persecution, the rise and prominence of Israel as a nation. Now, what is your response, though, both of you, to those who argue that, as Ecclesiastes states, there's nothing new under the sun? In other words, they interpret that to mean that natural disasters, scientific discoveries, wars, persecution, and all that you mentioned have taken place over the years and will continue to take place. Nothing new, really. Bishop Ellis, you first. How do you respond to that?
Well, there's nothing new in the sense that humans remain humans since sin came. We are prone to the same frailties as human beings. We make the same mistake. History repeats itself because the human nature remains constant. Sin dominates man's life. And that's why history repeats itself. That's why the more things change, the more it remains the same, because men of 2,000 years ago still have and is controlled by that sinful nature as we are today. And so that was the sense of what Solomon was saying, life is a cycle. The river run into the sea and it evaporates, go back into the atmosphere and return. The cycle of life. That was what Solomon spoke to. However, earth is culminating, is coming to a point of climax and a point of culmination. The kingdom of man is right now having its last act, and the stage is being prepared right now for God to intervene and take that stage. So, indeed, man's actions repeat itself. However, there is going to be a grand change of the order where Jesus, that stone cut out of the eternal kingdom, is going to smash the kingdom of man, and he is going to set up the kingdom of God.
Yeah, hearing you. Bishop Adigold, what's your take on that?
Well, nothing is new under heaven, just like as the book of Ecclesiastes has said it. However, there will be more, there will be increase in what has been happening. In other words, the magnitude is coming upon us, because there has been tribulations, but there will be great tribulations before the end of the time comes. There have been deceivers.
As you mentioned, tribulations, though, Bishop. Sorry to cut you, but in the time of the Holocaust, can you imagine how the Jews felt at that time in regards to Hitler? That was great tribulation.
No, but that ceased, that ended. It was not the Antichrist per se who came to bring that great tribulation at that time. But this one, according to what is described in the book of Revelation, the great tribulation, that it has never happened before, and it will not happen again. That time, even the believers who go through it, I know, the time will not permit us here. There is a pre-tribulation era, there's a tribulation, and there's a post-tribulation era, according to people in the faith who are of all, these three areas. So, what I'm saying, the experience of the great tribulation will be a time of great sorrow, that people will turn to the mountains, they say, kill us, mountain. Oh no, this is happening. It will be too much. The intensity and the continual, until Christ comes to stop it. The Bible talks about 1,000 years of Satan being thrown into, after that, being thrown into the bottomless pit, and so on and so forth. When we talk about the eschatological, theories or belief, that's a different thing, But great tribulation is higher, is bigger. The proportion is more than just tribulation.
But it seems to me, though, that Jesus' main emphasis and the main point he was making in, for example, Matthew 24 was preparedness. And as I think, as was mentioned earlier, these are just the beginning of sorrows.
Beginning of sorrows.
Come to pass, but the end is not yet. And the key thing he's saying is that prepared. Be prepared no matter what is happening. No matter what the signs you see or don't see. The key thing is to be prepared. Don't you see that way?
Yeah. Because that's what is written there.
And there's something about the tribulation.
Matthew 16:4. And even an adulterous generation seeks for a sign. Yeah, that's Matthew 16 verse 4,
Yeah. One of the things, Rev, is that this great tribulation that you referenced, one of the difference between it and periods of the Great Depression and periods of World War and the Holocaust, this one is going to be unprecedented in that it will be global. And it will be global, and some of the things that will be happening during this period has never happened on earth before. So it will be unprecedented. And Jesus wanted us to be aware and to be ready. And he also wanted the church, as the world unravel and go in a meltdown, he wanted the church not to get into a panic,
But be
not to be
prepared.
distracted,
Believe it or
but,
not,
but
Bishop.
to stay firm.
Yeah, we're totally out of time. Thank you very much for joining us, though, and we appreciate the discussion. Have a safe and productive day.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
The time by Gem Bank is
7:31.
sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ears, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance of what appeals to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joe Pinckney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Even though you can call on me, I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Only listen, call in, text or voice message. I'm Dr. Joe Pinckney, counseling psychologist, ready with the listening ear, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Right here on the family station, Love 101 FM. Looking to add a touch of elegance to your life?
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Gleaner, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark ends stint midnight Tuesday as he heads to IMF. Wish him all the best. Rockford residents remain in fear. And in the Observer, corruption fueled by greed. Millions being sucked out of health ministry by rapacious form of capitalism, says the PNP. Also in the Observer, Andrew Holness unopposed as nominee for party leader. And then finally, in Loop News, Carib Cement reports major improvement in island-wide cement inventory. And also in Loop News, man from Tivoli slapped with 50-year sentence after shootout with cops. 50 years? Anyway, those are the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we read some of the feedback from our social media question. What signs of the times convince you that we are really in the end times? We're asking to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
Time to feel. All gospel artists. Are you looking for your break in the gospel music industry? Are you a big sensation but not getting enough recognition? Well, submit your name and song via our email to the producer at love101.org. That's producer at love101.org. You and your music just might be featured inside the music on a Friday at 2:15 p.m. We are the family station, Love 101, and we are celebrating music, family, and love. Receive words of strength from the voice of power, Bishop Dr.
The blood seed has been declared. And the war is still raging. I will put enmity between thee and between the woman. Thy seed, their seed. A war will be on perpetually until Jesus returns. But I know who has already won the war.
That's the voice of power with Bishop Dr. Delphine Davis. Brought to you by the Power. Voice of Power comes to you every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
He's right. Listen for youth songs on Wednesday.
Church is a program of the Jamaica Baptist Union Youth Department.
Youth songs. Wednesday at 4:15 p.m.
Love 101 invites you to listen to Encounter, presented by the Jamaica Association of Full Gospel Churches, Thursdays at 10 p.m. every
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, a dedicated court for people with mental health issues who are in conflict with the law, especially against the background where hundreds of persons get lost in the prison system while awaiting a trial that never comes. That happens to be a call coming from Professor Wendell Abel recently. And then when we look at the story of Delroy McIntosh, who was in prison for nearly 25 years after being adjudged unfit to plead, we're asking, how did we get here? And how do we fix it all? Well, to talk about this, we have online Professor Wendell Abel, psychiatrist and therapist, as well as policy advisor and advocate for mental health. When we also have online Shane Rodriguez. Are you Professor Rodriguez?
Good morning, Dr. Toussaint. Yes, I'm both a professor of law at the Massachusetts School of Law in Massachusetts, and I'm also a practicing attorney who handles mental health cases.
Great, good. We are so happy to have you both with us. Professor Abel, congratulations on your recent receipt of the Order of Jamaica. He's not there right now? Gone? Okay, all right. We will get back to him shortly. Okay, Professor Rodriguez, you identified, of course, as an attorney in mental health law in the United States, and you actually lecture in that regard. Now, I'm not sure how many lawyers in Jamaica are so identified. Can you tell us what constitutes an attorney in mental health law?
So what constitutes an attorney in mental health law? First, the attorney obviously has to be licensed to practice law in the United States and in Massachusetts. In addition, the attorney also receives training in the areas in which they're going to represent clients. So for myself, before I began representing mental health patients, I had to go through a program to be able to be educated on the mental health laws in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the procedural rights that patients who are in mental health facilities or in prisons, the procedural rights that they have to make sure that someone is not indefinitely imprisoned for lengthy periods of time. So we received quite a bit of training in that area. And there are also a number of procedural safeguards that we have to be aware of to make sure that our clients do make it before a court to be able to have their case heard.
Wow. So I guess the in terms of the clients, how are they referred to you or to attorneys who focus on mental health law? How is that?
There's a couple of ways in which an attorney can come into contact with a mental health client. First, in Massachusetts and in many other states in the United States, we have what we call a public defender program. A public defender program is a program where if a defendant can't afford to hire an attorney, then the state will appoint an attorney to represent that mental health client at no cost to that person. That's one way in which they can come into contact. Another way is if someone contacted a lawyer and said, hey, I need a lawyer to represent myself or a family member, they could hire a lawyer to also represent them in a mental health proceeding as well. But what I do is I'm part of a program where I receive court-appointed cases, particularly with mental health clients who can't afford an attorney.
Okay, interesting. We are actually approaching a break. So, Prof, we will be right back in just a moment.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising.
gonna work hard. For real. To be the most who send me and your brother to school. But dream is always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled school dream with one June bank savings plan alone. Further my education and I make mama proud.
Wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And this is the second watch. We are looking at the whole matter of being lost in the system. That's the plight of the mentally ill in our justice system today. In so doing, we have online Professor Shane Rodriguez, attorney and lecturer in mental health law in the United States of America. We are having some difficulty connecting with Professor Wendell Abel. So our discussion continues. Welcome again, Professor Rodriguez.
Good morning, Dr. Toussaint.
Yes, good to have you still with us. Now, how common are mental health courts in the United States, and how different are they from the traditional courts?
They're very common, I should tell you, here in the United States. And in Massachusetts, I can tell you, we've also moved forward with what we call specialty courts. And many specialty courts within Massachusetts deal just with the issue of mental health patients. And for that reason, we do that so patients aren't lost in the criminal justice system. And again, that they're able to be brought to the court and have their case heard.
Yes, and that referral process, because the whole matter of mental health, as it states, is mental. It's how are they assessed, evaluated? Is there a process there that you can share with us?
There is, and that's a great question. So if there are a couple of ways in which a person is assessed to determine whether or not they need mental health treatment. First, if a person who has not committed a crime, but there's a belief that the person suffers from mental illness, there is a mechanism by which a person can be brought before the court to be assessed to determine, one, whether they have a mental illness, and if they do have a mental illness, then to further determine whether they are a harm to themselves, a harm to others, or a substantial risk of harm to the person in the community. And so that person would be entitled to a hearing before a court in a specified number of days, and a judge would then take evidence to determine whether or not this person should be involuntarily committed. That's one way. The second way is if a person commits a crime, and at that arraignment where they're before the court and they're being arraigned on charges, new charges, an attorney can file a motion asking the court to assess the client to determine whether or not that criminal defendant is competent to stand trial. And when we say competent to stand trial, what we're saying is, can that criminal defendant assist his or her attorney with that person's case? If they are not competent to stand trial, then again, there is another hearing that's held within a specified period of time, within 5 or 14 days, where a person has the right to appear before a court to determine whether or not that criminal defendant should be involuntarily committed. And I'll also say this, with both of these types of commitments, there is a time limit. If a person is committed, then they would be committed for up to 6 months. Doesn't mean that they have to completely stay there for 6 months. If they receive treatment and they respond to treatment and there's no further need to treat the person, well, then 2 months, 3 months, the person can be released. And that's a mechanism to make sure of what you folks have happening in Jamaica doesn't happen in the United States. We put timelines in terms of how long a person can be kept involuntarily in a mental health facility.
Prof, what about those who feign mental illness? How do you determine that this is a genuine case vis-a-vis someone who's just acting it out?
Yeah. So when that person is assessed, they will have what we call a designated forensic psychiatrist, a person who is very highly skilled and trained in the area of psychiatry. That person will assess that person and determine whether they are feigning mental illness or whether or not they actually have a mental illness. If there's a determination that the person does not suffer from mental illness, then they will not be committed to a mental health facility or kept in a jail or prison system. Their case, if it's a criminal case, will proceed to trial. And if it's not a case where the person has committed a crime, but whether or not the person is just feigning mental illness and whether they should go into a mental health facility, again, they will be assessed. And if they're not mentally ill, they will be released and discharged from that facility.
Now, based on your experience in the US, have you ever had the case where persons are lost in the system as Jamaica? I mean, perhaps not to the same magnitude, but do you have cases like those, and how are they normally dealt with when discovered?
So I can speak for Massachusetts. I'm sure in other states within the United States, there may be a system where someone is committed because they're not fit to plead and they get lost in the system. Can that happen? It's possible. But I would tell you that in Massachusetts, because of the strong laws that we have and because of the oversight that's a part of the the mental health proceedings, generally that doesn't happen in Massachusetts. We don't lose people in the prison system. They are accounted for. They have, again, dates that they're given to make sure that they appear before a court within a specified period of time so that their case can be heard. And again, if it's a matter where the person is going to be involuntarily committed, meaning they're committed to a mental health facility against their will, again, there are timelines. The first timelines, as I mentioned before, is up to 6 months. Now, at the conclusion of that 6 months, if they think the person needs continued treatment, well, then the hospital would have to, again, file a petition with the court. The person would be entitled to a hearing. And then at the conclusion of that hearing, if the court found that the person still needs to be treated, now they can be committed for up to 1 year. But again, when that 1 year mark comes around again, that person, again, is entitled to another hearing to determine whether they should be kept there any further.
Is there any accountability and responsibility on the part of the state?
There is, absolutely. In Massachusetts, we have what's called the Department of Mental Health. And the Department of Mental Health sets regulations with respect to procedural timelines, the requirements for a person to be actually committed if they need the mental health and treatment, the type of treatment they're able to receive. So yes, there are regulations and guidelines where that agency is responsible for making sure that any hospital that receives mental health patients, again, are receiving the rights that they're entitled to.
Yeah. No, I gather there's something known as temporary insanity. How does that factor into the law in Massachusetts, and how it have been dealt with over the years?
So when we talk about someone who's raising the issue of insanity, what we're saying is at the time that this person committed this crime, were they suffering from a mental illness or a mental defect? And so we look at what was happening at that particular time. Now, let's suppose that a person commits a crime several months ago, and at that time, that's when they were suffering from insanity. They're still going to be arraigned. They're going to be charged with a criminal offense. And what they'll do is they'll hire an attorney or be appointed attorney. Well, that attorney then can raise what we call lack of criminal responsibility, meaning, hey, when I committed this crime 6 months ago, I was suffering from a mental illness. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. So that can be a defense that the person raises. Here's the issue with this defense, though. If this person raises this defense and they're successful, they can absolutely end up being civilly committed to a mental health facility for a very lengthy period of time. So you have to be very careful about whether or not you want to raise that defense of insanity, even if it's temporary, because it could have a person committed to a mental health facility and or prison for quite some time.
That there could be lesser of two evils for that individual. Don't you see it that way?
Say that again, doctor.
Sorry, that could be lesser, regarded as a lesser of two evils for that individual.
That's correct. That is correct. It could be looked as a lesser of two evils. And again, this is why the defendant has the choice in terms of whether or not they would want to raise this defense of insanity. And it's their choice. The lawyer can't force that upon them. The court can't force that upon them. The defendant is able to make that choice, him or herself.
Now, you know, Jamaica situation, I gather you are aware of it. What would you suggest? What would you advise that we now need to do to get ourselves out of this rut that we're in regards to persons being lost in the system?
Well, I would say this. I know that you folks in 2006, you created the Criminal Justice Act in Jamaica, and there you started to look at some ways in which you can start to make sure that people aren't lost in the prison systems. I think Jamaica has made a start to that, but I think they need to continue to go further. I think if someone is unable to plead, they should be given the opportunity to have a hearing in a very timely manner to determine whether or not they should be civilly committed to a mental health facility or a jail. That's the other thing too. They don't need to go to a prison. If a person is mentally ill, we allow for in Massachusetts a person, if there's not a need to be sent to a prison, to be sent to a mental health facility, which is a hospital. Will they receive the type of treatment they need? I think Jamaica should look at that type of a system as well. The other thing is, again, if the person is part of a criminal case and the issue is whether or not they are incompetent to stand trial, again, that person should have a hearing to determine whether they're competent to stand trial or incompetent to stand trial. And again, there should be timelines that are set to make sure that the person is coming before the court in a timely manner and not kept there for the number of years as many of these folks have been. You know, when I look at the plight of Walter Blackstock and I look at the plight of Alfred Nettleford and I look at the plight of other people, Noel Chambers, it saddens me to see that these are people who were kept in prison for an indefinite period of time, some of which were found to be competent to actually stand trial and fit to stand trial, but never were brought before the court. I think that's a travesty and it's an injustice. And I think that there needs to be a real reckoning with the Jamaica system in terms of their mental health system.
Yes. And well, are there any other lessons that you think we need to learn from our experience in Jamaica vis-a-vis what you're experiencing there in your state in America?
I do think there needs to be again, I think there's a need for lawyers to be trained, as I said, in the area of mental health issues so that they're able to properly represent their clients. I think there needs to be communication and collaboration between the lawyer and the mental health facility and with respect to the treatment that the person receives. I think Jamaica, again, can start to look at other types of models around the country and globally in terms of ways in which they can improve their system so that people, again, aren't indefinitely committed to a prison for lengthy periods of time.
Yeah. And you know, worst case scenario, you know, we in the preamble we mentioned the fact of what's his name again, Delroy McIntosh, who was in prison for nearly 25 years after being adjudged unfit to plead. And you know, there are other cases like these. So we really want to tell you thanks. We want to appreciate you and what is happening over there in terms of addressing these issues. And I hope you have some dialogue with our lawyers over here in that regard, you know, maybe to have more focus in dealing with mental health issues.
Yeah, so currently right now I have a student who is from Jamaica who actually reached out to me. He's a student at the Massachusetts School of Law, and he's on his way to be completing his law school program. And so we do train a number of people who come from a number of different other countries. And we hope that when those people leave our law school, that they're trained lawyers and they can go back to their communities and be able to affect change, real change. And so we hope that that happens with our students. I hope with the student who's currently there from Jamaica, that's exactly what he does when he goes back.
I have to leave it there. Very interesting. I want to thank you so much for joining us, Professor Rodriguez. Be safe.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information or get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This, of course, has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale. I'm Dylan Toussaint, asking you to remain tuned to Love in the Morning.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness works to ensure the provision of quality health services and promotes healthy lifestyles and environmental practices for all Jamaicans. The time by the Ministry of Health and Wellness is
8 a.m. and you are now invited to listen to Forward in Faith, brought to you by the New Testament Church of God in Bayside, Portmore.